Hello and welcome, dear friends, at Lit eCity YouTube channel. And once again, we are going to discuss some key concepts in linguistics. As you know, it is a very important topic, and sometimes students ignore, but there are at least 2 to 3 questions always coming from this topic, and that is why we are covering this topic. And in today's session, we are going to discuss some key terms like genderlect, social dialect, language acquisition device, language origin theories, great vowel shift and theme. All these are sometime, however, in direct or indirect manner have been asked, and that is why we have covered these topics. So we will start our first key term, that is social dialect. Dear friends, this term is taken from the field of social linguistics. It is a variety of speech associated with a particular social class or occupational group within a society. So basically, it is also known as a sociolect, a group ideolect, or a class dialect. We have already seen in our first class an ideolect is a particular language of a person. So group ideolect is a particular language of a group. Similarly, class dialect, which represents a class, and that is why it is also known as a sociolect. Now, dialectical differences are connected with social class, educational levels, or both. When a particular dialect, which is spoken in a particular region, it also has some differences. It may be, the reason may be that there is distinction between social class, or there is a difference between the educational level, because highly educated speakers and higher social class, they tend to use features belonging to the standard language because of their typical upbringing in that atmosphere. The original dialect of the region is better preserved in the speech of the lower and less educated class because they remain in touch with the locality. They don't attend a school, or they don't get accustomed to a speech which is universalized, which is basically, but they are rather imbued with the local colors. Now, the standard variety of a given language, for example, British English, which stands, it is always the upper class sociolect of a central area, and that is why it is called regiolect. Now, you can understand the language spoken by the upper class or the highly educated class. It is quite, similar on the lines of the central language, or we can say the standard variety of language, and that is why it is also known as regiolect. Now, it is also important to note regional dialect, which we have discussed in our last class. It is defined by geographical boundary. So, if there is one extreme point in the north and there is other extreme point in the south, there will be great difference between the regional dialect of language spoken at these points. But social dialect is defined by social barriers. Now, these social barriers may be, once again, I have told you that it may be the class, economic class, it may be even caste, as in case of India, and then educational background. Social dialect variation can be reflected in pronunciation or even in grammar usage. So it's a in itself there is minor differences, but only listening to some person you can point out that he belongs to which particular class, or whether his education is up to of standard or localized. So the factors that can affect social dialects are social class. Particular class may be always educationally forward or educationally backward. Then religion. Some religions allow a kind of standard language acquisition, while others are traditional. Then education, obviously the most important factor. Then profession, if you belong to a particular technical profession, service profession, you come in touch with all sort of people, then your language becomes rather more of a regio-lect or standard English, a standard language. But some other professions, they don't have so many of social interaction. Then caste, as I already mentioned, especially in cases like India, the caste plays an important role even in language. And then gender, yes dear friends, even gender can decide the particular way of talking, pronunciation or acquisition. It is on this line that our next key term is, which is genderlect. In social linguistics, of a speech variety or communication style which is particularly associated with one sex. So we can say that it is a type of social dialect. But Deborah Tannen, she coined this term genderlect because she wanted to describe the way that the conversation of men and women are different. She wanted to highlight this particular point. According to theorists like Robin Lakoff, women's use of language, it involves more of verbal fillers, qualifiers, and politeness markers, and they are less definitive. For example, using adverb like perhaps, using more justifiers like because, asking more questions, agreeing more with the conversational partners. These are typical qualities of an average woman in their average conversation on the social scene. Tannel also believes that women use rapport talk to establish meaningful connections with others, while men use rapport talk to gain status in relation to other. For man, basically language is not an emotional or mere communication tool. It is a tool to gain something or to establish himself into the social arena. So because women and men use language with different purpose and differently, Tannen suggests they are not just speaking the same language, but they are speaking different dialects, or what she calls genderlects. The goal of genderlect theory is to acknowledge and appreciate the language of opposite sex and to understand the psychological marking of a language and achieve mutual respect and understanding. A very important term in grammar is, or we can say linguistics, is language acquisition device. Dear friend, it is coined by the great pioneering linguist Noam Chomsky, the American one. He proposed the idea of language acquisition device, or LAD. According to him, LAD is a hypothetical tool. It is just a concept which is hardwired into the brain of every person, and this particular tool, this particular, we can say, organ helps children rapidly learn and understand language. It is a sort of, we can say, mental software which allows a children to quickly grasp his or her mother tongue. How children, when exposed to any human language, are able to learn it within only a few years, because it is a very complicated science system and children doesn't learn other science systems like mathematics so easily, but they easily acquire without any formal training this language of their parents. It holds that the fundamental rules for language, and Chomsky calls it universal grammar. According to Chomsky, there are certain grammatical rules which go beyond a particular language. They are found in all languages. For example, how to set a sentence, the elements of a sentence, or calling the name, or calling the action. He calls it universal grammar. And LAD, this particular device or tool which is hypothetically in our brain, it contains this universal grammar. A child, with the help of LAD, discovers which grammatical rules contained within universal grammar apply to that particular language which is spoken by his or her parent and which the child is learning. Now, because universal grammar contains so many rules coming from all languages, This LED allows the child to find out the particular rules that is applicable on his or her language. When child begins to listen to his parents, he will unconsciously recognize which kind of language he or she is dealing with, and he will set the grammar to the correct one, and that is how very easily he or she will be able to communicate with his or her parents. So there are, we can say, three steps. First is input, that is the speech of his or her parents or adult around him. The second step is that of in the brain LED, where there is a universal grammar, general language learning principle, and grammatical rules. It is all contained in this LED. This LED processes the adult speech, then picks the correct grammatical rules, and what is the output? Output is the child's speech. This is how language acquisition device helps a child to acquire the language quite quickly. Dear friends, our third concept of the day is phonesthemes. Now, it is a particular sound or sound sequence that suggests a certain meaning. Now, it does not mean that sound itself has the meaning. Sorry. It means that a particular sound, especially sound sequence, 2 or 3 consonants, when they come together, they acquire a spatial meaning which is generated in the word. It was coined by English linguist John Rupert Firth in his book Speech to indicate word paradigms that begin and sometimes end also with similar or identical sound, and they all share one particular sense. They all have one particular quality of meaning. The best known examples are English initials such as FL, which is expressive of the movement. Now, if you look at number of words, flee, flick, fling, flip, flit, flow, flutter, fly, flourish, flash, flax, flinch, flock, flop. All these are beginning with FL, but all these carry the same idea of movement. The same idea means they have different meaning, but they all somehow related with the action of movement. This is what phonestheme is. Now you can look at these words. These are some very commonly found phonesthemes in English language. For example, BL for blow. Now blast, blurt, blaze, bright, breezy, brisk, brilliant, clang, clang, clash, clap, cranky, crabby, crazy, cry, or there are so many. This is twist, TW, twine. Even the word twist itself, then twill, twine, tweak, swish, swoop, swipe. There is related with light, there is related with sound, harmony. So all these are example of phonestheme where a particular group of consonant SW, TR, TW, when they come in the beginning of a word, they create an additional meaning, and the word carries that particular meaning. Our next term or concept, I would say, is the great vowel shift. It is a very important concept. It is a massive sound change affecting the pronunciation of long vowels of English during the 15th to 18th century. Now, Otto Jespersen, who was a Danish linguist, he was the first to coin the term GVS or the great vowel shift in his book A Modern English Grammar. Now, the great vowel shift has a long-term implication for the orthography, how we write, the reading, how we read, and the understanding of any English language text written before or during the shift, because it was the transition period when English pronunciation and spellings underwent a change because of this great vowel shift. Now, dear friends, a vowel that used to be before this GVS, it used to be pronounced in one place in the mouth. After GVS or during the transition period, it would be pronounced in a different place. And because it is a grate, it means higher up in the mouth. From the back side of the mouth, the shifting came to the higher side of the mouth. Now, the effect of this general raising of long vowel sounds made the pronunciation of early modern English, which is round about 1500, significantly different from early periods. Now, the Old English and the Middle English, they use especially in literature, in poetry, these words according to the pronunciation of that time. But after 1500 and up to 1800, this process went on. The pronunciation becomes different. Some texts of Old English, that is why were difficult to decipher why the poet or writer has used this particular word, because it is not according to modern standard rhyming with the other word. Here are some examples how these words change and pronunciation difference. For example, there was long E. So in the Old English, T-I-M-E, it was pronounced like team, while now it has changed into diphthong I. That is why it is now pronounced as time. Similarly, it was pronounced as a, so it was like capon. Now it has changed into E, so that is why it is keep. Then it was U, jaise, for example, NOW, it was pronounced as no, and now it has changed into diphthong A, that is why it is na. So you can see that a person who knows only about New English, he will find it difficult to set these words according to their that time pronunciation in the set pattern. It is not only these three particular long vowels, but others also underwent a shift, and this theory sometimes explain which were earlier used to be the errors in writing or errors in pronunciation. With this, we come to a very important and very interesting part, various theories on the origins of language. Now, dear friends, social scientists and those who study language, they have always curious about the theory which can explain how human beings acquired such a complex system of language. There are many theories about the origins of language. All of them have been not been accepted completely. They have been challenged, they have been refused, discounted, and ridiculed also, because each theory accounts only for a small part of what we know about language. So there is no significant one theory, though now social and psycholinguists have reached to a one particular common explanation, but earlier there were various theories, and the terms we use for these theories is also in a comical tone. If the thing one is carrying to describe does not have a word that comes to mind, or existing words simply aren't right one, this is from the last one. There are some theories we will study. The first one is Bow theory. According to this theory, language began when our ancestors tried to imitate the natural sounds around them. So the first speech was onomatopoeic, bow wow, moo, ba. Or we can say a man or a person standing in a garden, he listened to the voice of birds cooing, cawing, of animals mooing, mawing, and he tried to imitate those speech. Because all modern languages have some words with pronunciation that seem to echo naturally occurring words, sounds, this could be used to support this theory. But the problem with this theory is that now we have come forward to very complex system and rapid growth of human language, which contain only a tiny part of such onomatopoeic sounds. The second one is foo-foo theory. Now, this theory is based on the idea that speech comes from the automatic vocal responses to natural these emotions of pain, fear, surprise, and other such basic emotion or responses. Once again, there is one problem with this theory is that interjections, some other emotions related interjections like ah, oh, wow, yuck, they are usually produced with sudden intake of the breath. While most of the words which we speak are actually while we exhale the breath. So normally produced spoken language on exhale breath. So once again, it is not able to explain this phenomena. The next one is ding dong theory. It was favored by Plato. It maintains that speech arose in response to the essential qualities of objects in environment. Now the original sounds people made, they were in harmony with the world around him. Like other concepts of Plato, it is also based on the world being a replica of an ideal world. The next one is La theory. Once again, Otto Jesperson come forward with this concept suggesting that the language comes out of play, laughter, courtship, emotional mutterings and the like. He even suggests that contrary to other theories, some of our first words were actually long and musical rather than the short grunts, which was presented in Foo theory and yo-he-ho theory. Now the idea is that the sounds of a person involved in a physical labor or effort could be the source of our language. When we are pulling or pushing some heavy object, digging earth, carrying some other things, and when these tasks were done in group and it involved several people, their interaction became kind of first we can say prototypes of our modern language. So whatever they might have developed a set of hums, grunts, groans and curses that were used when they were lifting, pushing or doing some other laborious task. So you can see now different theories of language. This is bow wow, which is imitation of natural sound. Foo, which is responses or of pain and pleasure. Ding dong, which is in harmony with the natural sounds of the world. La, which is our courtship, singing, dancing, playing. And yo he ho, which is about our natural sounds occurring when we are doing some physical labor. So these are various theories. There are some other also, but these 5 are most popular ones. Okay, dear friends, that is all in our class for the today. I hope I was able to explain these terms to you. We will soon come back with some more important terms. Keep watching, keep supporting your own channel for English literature. Thank you, friends.